Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Oh, England's finest football team, its record truly great. Its proud successes marked by a cruel turn of fate. 8 men will never play again who met destruction there. The flowers of English football, the flowers of Manchester. That poem was sent anonymously in October 1958 into a folk magazine called Sing. The words were printed, but no music accompanied it apart from a note saying that it was to the tune of High Germany. And the reason we start today's episode of Daily Premier League in English for Global Sports Podcast Network this way is because, of course, to commemorate the anniversary of the Munich air disaster that took the lives of 23 people, which most of them were basically the very important figures in Manchester United at the time, of course, the Mud Busby Babes. That happened 67 years ago, and I'm Michał Czarniecki, based in California. I'm joined by Eshan, LA, California. Eshan, I'm afraid I'm not qualified enough to ask you about the Mud Busby Boys because we were not alive at the time, and that happened a long time ago. But it's actually pretty important for Man United fans to remember about this, the victims of this air crash, right?
Yeah, I think it's super important to remember our past and remember the culture of the club. When Sir Alex Ferguson came into Man United, the Munich air disaster and the Busby Babes were a cornerstone of his ideology because it's respecting where we come from. And to see a team, like obviously we didn't see it and our grandfathers probably saw it, but see a team come from the brink of disaster and then within 10 years win a European cup. It's quite an incredible achievement, and I think I forgot the name of the Brazilian team that it happened to in 2017, but that it decimates a team when something like this tragic happens. Because the way that Bobby Charlton used to talk about it is he'd like see their shadows in the halls and stuff, and it's a tragedy, but the best thing we can do each year is to remember them and respect where we come from.
Exactly so, because that was basically one of the best sides in English football, and so many talented footballers lost their lives that day. So it is our duty to remember for our generation and for future generations to come. So now that we commemorated the victims in our podcast, I'm sure that folks at Daily Manchester United also did the same. But since we are Man United fans, we couldn't help but just take this opportunity. So now that that's out of the way, let's focus on what happened during the semi-final ties, second legs of the Carabao Cup. We will not be talking about the Liverpool game. That will be covered by our other podcasters here at Daily Premier League in English. So we highly encourage you to listen to that. But we will focus on the other game, which was Newcastle United taking on Arsenal at St. James's Park. A game in which, to be honest, out of those two ties, I thought that in that game we could actually see the comeback, which was never seen before in English football history, for a team going 2-0 down at home, doing a remontada, as the Spaniards would call it, and just go back after this 2-0 defeat away. Arsenal failed to do that. And, Eshan, why did that happen? What did Eddie Howe did? What did he do in this game?
Newcastle have not won a trophy for I think 53 years or something crazy like that. And you think back to like the Kevin Keegan side where they were like, was it 11 points clear or 12 points clear of United, and then somehow choked it. Newcastle fans have been crying out for a cup final, crying out for a cup final victory. Even if Eddie Howe's team doesn't go on to win it's a tall order now against Liverpool. If they don't go on to win, they're still legends in Newcastle fans' eyes. The past few weeks has all been building up to this moment. After Arsenal succumbed to the wonderful Isak performance at the Emirates, Newcastle have had 2 consecutive home losses. Bournemouth, which frankly, Bournemouth, fantastic win, but Fulham, which less fantastic win, more of a gritty display from Fulham. I think both of those performances can be attributed to focusing on this. I think their season is built around a cup victory. I think they know how much the fans relish the victory. And there was a lot of talk before the game saying like, oh, is this a good time for Arsenal to play Newcastle? But there was no way that Newcastle were going to drop the ball. There was no way. Perhaps if Arsenal, the first half, I don't know, Odegaard had a chance, smacked the post, straight away went down the other end and scored. You know, there are little moments of luck, perhaps, that like push a team to victory, and you need those in football. People forget that as much control as you can have, if somebody slices a shot top corner, they didn't mean it. It doesn't matter. It went in. That's the slice of luck that some teams get and some teams don't. And I think Newcastle had preparation. St. James Park had like the fans are right on top of you, so you had that, and they got the luck to make sure that Arsenal didn't even get a foothold into the game.
Yeah, and also a lot of experts pointed out the starting lineups will be maybe not particularly any personal choices, but I'm talking about their lineup in defense, because they decided to, well, someone would say to park the bus, but they did it in such a way that Arsenal basically, the only reason Arsenal conceded those 2 goals, was because of their own defensive mistakes. So basically, apart from those 2 goals, which happened on the end of David Raya, Dubravka, yes, he did have to make some saves because Arsenal, they were still creating some chances, but they were super predictable. And Eddie Howe knew that perfectly well, and that's why he put those 5 defenders at the back. And it worked, because Arsenal, they either couldn't even get to the penalty box, or even if they did, they were wasteful. So, masterclass by Eddie Howe.
Agreed. I think there's a massive difference between parking the bus and being defensively solid, and I think this is a great example of being defensively solid. I think what also helps is when you have wingbacks like Kieran Trippier has not played that much this season. People like don't understand the psychology of being a starter who's not starting. It's very hard to perform to the levels. And yet we saw him slamming at Arsenal players, jeering up the crowd the whole game, getting the Newcastle fans singing his name, you know? There's something really to be said for being defensively solid and having the concentration and the know-how to manage out a game like that. Because, yes, this is an Arsenal team that perhaps is on, it's not the prime Arsenal team. You don't have Saka on the right wing. I feel like Saka makes a massive difference. But this is also an Arsenal team that's fresh off a 5-1 victory versus Man City. You know, it's no joke. Yes, they got Martinelli injury in the first half, but still, there are plenty of quality in that squad.
Oh yeah, and just sorry to interrupt you there. I'm just looking at this set of centre backs from this game for Newcastle: Fabian Schär, Sven Botman, Dan Burn, and wherever you look, especially to the stat of ground duels and aerial duels, they were absolutely superior. I guess the biggest. Maybe not upset, but like I've got the biggest respect towards Dan Burns' performance. Just please, guys, like look up his statistics after this game against Arsenal. Ground duels, 4 of them, all of them won, all of them. Aerial duels, 3 of them, also won them all. Basically, yeah,
Arsenal 6'6", so I should hope he should win the aerial duel.
Obviously, but of course, there's one thing when you have the predispositions to win those aerial duels, but then you have to go out on that pitch and actually do it. And he only went and did it. Wow. I mean,
it was a great performance.
Superb performance. Not to mention that Isak was, again, maybe he wasn't as visible as he was a month ago on the first leg at the Emirates, but it doesn't mean that he was dragging the team down. Absolutely not. He was also crucial to this.
I would argue that this is just as good a performance in the way that he didn't have much touches on the ball and he still made the decisive difference. That first goal that Newcastle got settled the nerves of the entire crowd. For now, as like coming back from 2-0 down is so different from coming back from 3 goals down, because once they got that first goal, Newcastle could like really take the gas off the brakes and they only have to go forward when it's absolutely necessary, and it showed. So wonderful touch from Isak to go around Saliba, just stick his leg out there. Saliba and Gabriel, I think the reason that they hate Isak so much and why it's so hard to play against him is, despite his like intense figure and what you would think about his physicality, because he can use his physicality, but that's not his game. His game is agility and getting around people, and that's a nightmare for somebody who just wants to be in a physical battle.
Oh yeah, definitely. So with that being said, I guess it was the quote of Eddie Howe after the game that the Newcastle playing in that kind of shape, they could easily take on any Premier League team, and it could be kind of it could be perceived as kind of like a cheeky statement, but with that kind of defensive display, when they were absolutely superb, who knows? Maybe it is true. Maybe Newcastle could create a couple more upsets this season.
Yeah, the top quality. I would not doubt that at all. I think that this is the quality of the Premier League, is that we can have a side like Newcastle that can really go toe-to-toe with anybody. But we also have Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, like these sides that have relatively low budgets compared to the top and are competing very much so.
Oh, right. Yeah. And, well, I guess we can just wish Newcastle all the best in the final against Liverpool. And what we just said there about, and that statement of Eddie Howe about Newcastle being able to take on any Premier League team, it will be able to be put to the test, because in March at Wembley Stadium, Newcastle will take on Liverpool. How did Liverpool clinch that victory against Tottenham after being 1-0 down after the first leg? Tune in to our friends who did the review at the Daily Premier League in English. So we're going to do a little short break, and then we will move on to the FA Cup ties, because this is Forecast Friday. Of course, we're going to get to some forecasting and predictions. So the thing that, as we actually discussed privately before we went on air, this is something that experts love talking about. and we're going to explain that soon. But now this.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out as the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the description to learn more about Zencastr.
And just like that, we're moving on to FA Cup ties, because this weekend we do not have Premier League, because the best league of the world needs to give way to one of the oldest cup competitions in the world, which is, of course, the FA Cup. Do not underestimate the FA Cup, as the BBC Sports campaign once said. So, we've got a lot of games ahead, and I guess since we are Man United fans, we can't help but talk about the upcoming game that the Red Devils will have against Leicester City. So, what is your prediction there, Mr. Michał?
Well, we saw this earlier in the season, where in the Carabao Cup and the Premier League, Ruud van Nistelrooy had a week to face Leicester City with United twice, and now we're seeing him come back with Leicester City. Crazy times.
Absolutely.
I think it'll be much more of a stern test this time. Although Ruud has not done a mind-bending job at Leicester City, they're still hard to play against. They're still trying to win second balls. They're still going after everything. And United aren't in good form. It's to say the least, right? Especially losing Lisandro Martinez. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
That being said, I think it'll be a decent victory. How about you, Michał? What do you think?
Well, I really have my doubts, especially after seeing the highlights of the performance that Man United had, unfortunately, at Old Trafford against Crystal Palace. That was just like somebody. I think one of the commentators said that Crystal Palace loves coming to Old Trafford, because every single time they do, they snatch 3 points, and then the Red Devils are left with just nothing but a puddle of their own tears and big question marks of what the hell went wrong. Pardon my French. I think I can say the H word, right? I think I can. I hope.
Yeah, I think your YouTube is fine with that.
Amazing. Thank you, YouTube. Love you so much. So, yeah, what you said there about the Lisandro Martinez injury, like cruciate ligament injury in his knee, and that basically rules him out of the entire season. And how much of a crucial blow is that to Man United defense?
Well, we've put down a couple podcasts together, and I think every single podcast where we've talked about Man United, Lisandro Martinez has been in the conversation, and for good reason. I think he's the perfect left-sided center back, and we don't have cover, really. Like, we have other center backs that can play, but they're not specialized. They're not left-footers. Like, I think Luke Shaw would be a great addition, but apparently he's had another injury complication. So it's going to be even longer till we see Luke Shaw back on the pitch. The only hope is that we have like Mazraoui, who can function there, but he's been playing on the right of the three if he plays in defense. So little nervous. I'm not so much worried about the defense as I am the attack now. I think while we have Ahmad and we have Garnacho, I think that's it. I think this is the time that Ruben needs to call in the youth. I think I forget his name, Chidi Obi Martin. We signed him from Arsenal like a season ago. He's been this teenage sensation. I see no reason why we should be playing Kobbie Mainoo in the false nine rather than playing like a youngster like that who can. He'll try his best. That's his opportunity. This is his chance. Like, maybe he won't fully absorb the system from day one. Of course he won't. But I think this is the biggest weakness I see in United is the lack of cover we have up top, especially giving away Rashford and Anthony. So it's like we have scarce for numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention that, like, the second I found out about Marcus Rashford's move on loan to Aston Villa, I just got so mad, and not because of the fact that I actually really wanted to somehow see Rashford immediately in the starting lineup, because I knew that it wouldn't happen. It's just that such a potential wasted because of some differences, or maybe because of the fact that Ruben Amorim could not somehow include Marcus Rashford into his puzzle there, into his structure. And I'm sure that with such talent as Rashford, that would be possible. But Ruben Amorim instead decided to go for false nine of Kobbie Mainoo. And just like you said, I have zero confidence that it will work. Yeah, bringing a youngster in could be a great opportunity for the youngster to present his skills, especially against the side of Leicester. And let's not forget what kind of an opponent Leicester City is. They are right now in relegation zone with 17 points and 1 win out of 5 last games. If not this game to showcase the youth, then what other game? Do we really have to play against the League One or League Two opposition for us to start bringing out the youth? Is that the case? I really do not understand that.
No, I completely agree. I think if not now, then when?
Yeah. And apparently, I'm just looking at the predicted lineup of Man United. Somebody predicts Ugarte to be starting in alongside Bruno Fernandes in midfield, with Mazraoui and Dalot joining as the wingers. Of course, Garnacho on the left and Diallo on the right. We'll just see. I guess we're just going to have to see. And I hope that our defeatism will be punished by Ruben Amorim's side, and then we'll have all of the reasons to celebrate and to rejoice against, after the victory against Leicester City. Let's hope. To all the Leicester City fans out there, you can hear our tone. You can hear that we are not as much optimists as we used to be.
Yeah, there's definitely blood in the water here.
Yeah, so guys, if you like, if you get what I'm saying, and if you get what I like, if you get where my mind is at right now at the moment, well, go for the kill, and let's see, maybe you'll get it. And yeah, there are always other competitions as the as the football classic goes. Oh no. Okay. All right. Enough about United Leicester. We will see how that goes. Let's move on to another game, which will be Brighton taking on Chelsea, following a 7-0 bashing against Nottingham Forest last Saturday. Brighton will hope to make amends and delight their supporters with an improved result and a win. And Chelsea, on their part, well, they put a spirited performance against West Ham United on Monday to fight back from a goal deficit. And they claimed a 2-1 win at Stamford Bridge. Of course, we're talking about the cup tie, so who knows, maybe we will see some players from Chelsea that normally wouldn't start for a Premier League game. What is your feeling there about this game?
I think that this is a good banana skin. I think Brighton could upset Chelsea. And I'll say upset very loosely because Brighton are a fantastic team. They play very front foot football. And I don't think they'll switch up their lineup as much as Chelsea will. Added to the fact that they just got beat 7-0, the fans at the Amex will, if Chelsea go 2-3 up real fast, the fans in the Amex will turn. Even the best fans, after a 7-0 thrashing, you're not in the right headspace. Like the whole fan base will be looking for something to latch onto. And so I think if it doesn't happen this game, it'll become, maybe for a short time, maybe just this game, hopefully like it doesn't continue. But I would be very surprised if we don't see a very, very strong Brighton performance. Mm-hmm. Coupled with the fact that Chelsea have the biggest squad of maybe all time, they're going to be rotating. It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a quick look at the lineups from the last game of Chelsea, with Cole Palmer having a fantastic performance with his performance rated at 8 out of 10. Jadon Sancho and Madueke playing on both sides of Cole Palmer, with Nicholas Jackson as number 9. Well, finally, I guess we could say that Chelsea, of course, that was a slim win, but still, I think that the Chelsea fans deserve a better performance after the blunder that they made at the Etihad Stadium. And I guess, who knows, maybe Chelsea, of course, like we said before, there's always room for some rotation because the season is longer. There are a lot of games in there. And I think English teams can attest to that out of any other representatives of football, of European football. But yeah, I think still Chelsea could maintain the quality and they could go for the kill against Brighton, even though Brighton will be very motivated to get that good positive result. Would you agree with me, Eshan?
Yeah, no, it's going to be my second most interesting round of the pick of the round because both teams will be up for it.
Exactly. Oh, and actually, now that I look at the... Actually, I just needed to recall just now, like, the game of Forest taking on Brighton, because, of course, I watched that game. I just basically... Like, it was kind of like, a long time ago. People, have to move on to some other responsibilities. So, I just needed to take a look again at the stats of Brighton. And, wow, I mean, this defense, they all received the marks below 6. 5.1 Lamptey, 5.5 Dunk, 5.7 Van Hecke, 5.8 Veltman. That is a poor performance, but then again, like if you allow Nottingham Forest a lot of space and you allow them to create the chances, then you're just asking for trouble. But I think we're sure that against Chelsea, it's not going to be as open as Espirito Santo had last time around. Brighton came out to the pitch. So, what's your prediction there, the scoreline? Just super quick.
I'm going to say 3-1 Brighton.
3-1 Brighton. Well, I think I will go for Chelsea win of 2 goals against nothing on the Brighton side.
Wow.
Who knows? Yes, I'll go. Who knows? We cannot agree on everything, Eshan. I know that we're Man United fans, but come on. We have to put some interesting parts in this.
Okay.
podcast.
Disagreements make for better watching.
Exactly so. All right. So now that we have Brighton Chelsea taken care of, now we can move on to a pretty big one. Especially with Ange Postecoglou's circumstances, that is Aston Villa taking on Tottenham. Wow, that's going to be a big one, especially considering the fact that Ange Postecoglou will have some ground to make up for if he doesn't have it already. Of course, that loss, utter horrifying loss of Tottenham at Anfield. That's going to be that's scary, because now Postecoglou has even more pressure than he had, and if he gets eliminated from FA Cup, I think the number might be up for Postecoglou.
Yeah, I could definitely see the same thing happening. I think tensions have been brewing a while. I think the fan base is behind him, but Daniel Levy is a cutthroat man. I think he was waiting for this week. I think he had this week circled in his calendar because, yeah, obviously Liverpool is a tough test, and not to get too much into that game, but they didn't do horrifically, and yet the scoreline does not reflect kindly whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But if they go to Villa, if they snake a loss, Villa snake a win is like penalties, extra time, I think that'll have a different feel to it. But if Villa win, especially with Postecoglou's high line, if it's like 4-2, 5-2, something like that, where it's like high scoring again, I think the curtain's on the wall. I just don't see anybody coming out of that. Like, as much as I like him, and I think I like the way he plays, I think that there's something to be said for sticking to your guns and flushing out your chest as a manager. He made a big deal at the start of the season about I win a second trophy. In my second season, I always win a trophy. And to Tottenham fans, that was always going to be a hill you died on. I think if he got top 4 or something like that, to where he can like stamp his credentials more, yeah, maybe they'd be willing to accept it, and say, okay, we didn't get the trophy, but at least we look like a side. But doing worse than Man United this season is one of the biggest challenges, and they just need a victory here. I can't see anything other than a victory really sustaining him. I think even if they lose narrowly, he might keep his job, but it guarantees he's gone in the summer. If they win here, I think he's buying time. Like Amarim has been saying about United, he's buying time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, like, it's at this point when we can no longer use excuses of injuries to back Postecoglou's bid to stay in the job, because he had an opportunity at Anfield. Of course, that was a tough job for Postecoglou to somehow bring the squad together and bring the fight to Liverpool. And that kind of happened in the first 45 minutes, even after this conceded goal, which leveled everything on aggregate. But then Tottenham's defense just absolutely collapsed, and the youngster which was put in there for Tottenham, he did not he failed. I'm sorry. Let's be blunt here. He absolutely failed to somehow live up to the level that even like Premier League, not even to mention Carabao Cup, requires. But if there is one saving grace that could be some sort of which would allow Postecoglou and Tottenham's side to somehow look positively on the game against Aston Villa, is that Aston Villa, they have the problems of their own. Number one, being tired after the Champions League campaign. Everyone brings it up that Unai Emery's squad is super tired after the European campaign, and those people they just cannot produce as much quality as they could previously. And the last loss of Villa at Wolverhampton actually kind of proves it. Not to mention that Matty Cash is injured, Tyrone Mings is injured, Pau Torres is injured, and I can definitely see that the loss of Matty Cash, Poland international, in this defense actually played out some big part, because you could see that on the wings, Aston Villa couldn't produce anything in that game against Wolverhampton. So maybe that is the perfect opportunity for Postecoglou to bounce back again.
Yeah, there's definitely a case for that, but I think given the fact that Villa have had a week off, I think that will give them enough rest to go again. I really can't see, just to move to predictions, I really can't see anything other than a Villa win. I would predict like 4-1, something crazy. We'll see. I mean, it'll be super interesting, I think, to see the Villa lineup. I wonder how many signings that they made will fit in. Will Asensio just come off the bench? Will Rashford start? I would be very interested. Obviously, they're missing players. Matty Kashowski, as he's called. And there was an injury to Watkins. I don't think he's been confirmed to start. I don't think it's the worst injury, but anytime a player's been subbed off at halftime due to injury, always take notice. But even with a B-Tech lineup, I don't see anything other than Villa trouncing Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
That is like, yeah, I would definitely agree with you that is basically the most realistic scenario that we could expect in that game of Aston Villa Tottenham Hotspur. But then again, desperate times call for desperate measures, as it's said. So I really think that Postecoglou, he knows. Come on, he's not like a person who is blind. He knows.
He's very much a realist.
He's a realist, so he will absolutely know that this is going to be a do or die. So you either make it happen, you knock out Aston Villa, and you give us something to cheer about, or you're out the door, and Tottenham has to fight to stay in the top flight. That's it. Really, that's really it. So, well, I guess we can wish good luck to Tottenham fans there, because I think they're going to need it. Well, we call it like we see it. I'm sorry. Like, if we're too brutal, like, come on, that's reality. And the last game that we decided to highlight, maybe it's not super connected to Premier League, but it's super interesting because of the history behind it. And that game is Leeds United taking on Millwall. And I could just put full stop here and just let you comment on that, because wow, how much of English football history is there in that single fixture?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of history. I mean, it's quintessential with football hooliganism, football culture. These two sides that I believe Millwall is also like not a one club city, but the only club in that area, and Leeds is a one club city. And so they have such a vociferous fan base for each of them that sparks are going to be flying. I think it'll be interesting seeing. I love when two championships sides play each other in the FA Cup, because one, there's the added pressure, and two, there's a way to get a team back. Like, Leeds have been dominating all season in the well, dominating is a strong word, but doing very well in the championship, looking like promotion hopefuls, very consistent, getting through a few of these tough tests. I think a championship team that's faced them early in the season will always want to just like take them down and bring them a notch down, just to remind them that they're still in this league. You're still fighting with us. Exactly. So I could see Millwall bringing a lot of fight to this. They did lose Esse, who's one of their most important players. I'm not sure who they replaced him with, to Crystal Palace, I believe. So Esse and Eze in the same team. But I think, yeah, this is another Leeds United victory. But upsets happen. That's the beauty of the cup.
Exactly so. And you know what? I love kind of trivia. I love trivia.
Yeah,
if I get some,
fantastic.
if I really, and if I get some nice stats that I could present, then I just really do not hesitate and just do it. And well, I just have one question for you, Eshan. Let's test out your knowledge.
Okay.
Exactly how many times has Leeds United and Millwall faced each other in the FA Cup?
In the FA Cup?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
Oof. I don't even remember any, but I'll say what about 12?
12. Well, this will be the very first ever FA Cup meeting
okay.
between Leeds United and Millwall. I was also surprised to read that. I was like, wow, so much history, and that's going to be the first ever FA Cup meeting?
Hilarious. In 150 years.
Wow. I mean, you know what? In that kind of case, I really kind of regret living in California because of the time zone issue.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be 12:15 GMT, which is going to be 4:15 AM. It's,
Yes,
middle of the night. So
yeah.
I think I will struggle to wake up to see that one, but I will sure to watch the highlights.
Yeah.
Because that should be something. And indeed, the only previous cup competition in which they have faced was the short-lived full members cup, with
Wow.
the Lions winning, so the Millwall winning both meetings 2-0, December 87 and November 88. So
Never heard of
that
it, but
history will be made, ladies and gentlemen, in the FA Cup. Very first meeting between Leeds United and Millwall. I think we've hyped that one enough. So you said that's going to be a Leeds United victory.
yeah,
Well,
I'll go 2-0.
like a 2-0. Well, I think I will refrain from giving any predictions. It's not like I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about both of those teams. All I can rely on is stats, and according to the stats, yeah, Leeds United, they will have the edge. They have the bigger quality than their hated
Yeah.
rivals Millwall. So yeah, we'll see how Manor Solomon will do, because he was the player of the match against Coventry for Leeds United. And yeah, we will see how it goes. So those basically the showcased ties in the fourth round of FA Cup. We're going to do a short break, and then we will discuss everything else.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
And just like that, our good friend Louis has cued us into talking about all of the other ties of the FA Cup, which could be potentially interesting, but we would just need to talk about them in a nutshell. So, Eshan, looking at the entire list, what other games really draw your attention?
An all Premier League fixture, Everton Bournemouth. I think that's a very interesting, very, very informed Everton. I would love to see an Everton victory and see a 4-game on the bounce Everton going into the Liverpool Everton derby next week, the Merseyside derby, would be the football gods would have blessed us.
Exactly.
Seeing a downtrodden Everton in a postponed game come back, so that would be great. Also, the side note is that earlier in the season, Everton choked a 2-0 lead at the 85th minute or something like that. 86th minute to let Bournemouth come back and win, score 3, which was an incredible game to watch. I caught the end of it too, so it was perfect.
Well, yeah, that game is scheduled to start on the February 8th at 7 a.m. Los Angeles time. Yeah. So that is somehow humane. That's a humane hour to watch football in America.
My other two would be Birmingham City, Newcastle. Newcastle obviously just coming off the Carabao Cup victory, and Plymouth, Liverpool. I scarcely believe an upset would happen, but it would be wonderful. Plymouth beating Brentford in the last round, just holding in the game, and Morgan Whittaker, who no longer plays with the club, scored in the 82nd minute. And I think there's such a beauty when teams can go they beat a team that upset after upset after upset.
Right.
So it'll build momentum, because if Plymouth beat Liverpool, there's scarcely a better team in the country. So
Yeah,
very
exactly. How many gifts will be sent to Plymouth from Man United fans after this upset victory? I think this is basically Man United hard. Speaking from you, Eshan, there.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh God.
But anything. This is the beauty of the cup, though. Is like you gotta dream, because if you dream, there's a chance. If you don't dream, there's no chance. So
yeah, ask Wigan Athletic from 2013
exactly,
when they defeated Manchester City.
Oh,
by the way,
what a cup run!
Whoever defeated our rivals in football, we praise them, we love them, and we wish all the best for them.
Yeah, we can also beat them in like 2017 with like a 1-0 Will Grigg winner.
Ah, right,
which is also wonderful. It's just fun to see them fail.
Oh my goodness. Well, it is what it is. And I think, okay, and you know what? Before anyone says that that's still too much and Manchester United has taken over the episode of this podcast too much, let me just say that Louis in previous episodes had absolutely zero problem to bash Man United and his podcast without any response. So with all the respect, Liverpool fans, you get what you give. Yeah, look at the brows. Look at the brows. So all of the people who cannot see us right now, I'm just doing the movement of the brows.
A little eyebrow
movement. The little brow movement to see how
good set of brows on you. You're moving them fast.
I'm just so yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You know what? Actually, as a matter of fact, if somebody from our team could be like, if Man United lose their tie to FA Cup, they can easily just please feel free to have a shot published on YouTube with me being smirky and raising my eyebrows and just meme the heck out of it. Do it. It's your prerogative. I basically I put myself in a vulnerable position. Let's put it that way.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's just all of that bitterness coming out of Man United fans. I mean, apologies. Okay, so
it's got to go somewhere.
Oh my goodness. So with that being said, that wraps up our forecast Friday. Well, let's just wish all the best to all of the teams participating in the FA Cup in this fourth round proper. And the one thing that we can wish to everyone, no matter who the opponent and who the club and what the clubs are, is health. May there not be any more injuries, because that has become a plague in football, isn't it already, Sean?
Yeah. We're seeing players getting overworked, and realistically, when you have competitions like the Club World Cup, which is now expanded for some reason to 48 teams,
yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Yeah. So, as my mother-in-law would say, hang on tight. You can get it. You can do it. So with that being said, with a beautiful tip off to my mother-in-law, which of course I greet from the bottom of my heart, that wraps it up for the Daily Premier League in English episode brought to you by Global Sports Podcasting Network. Michał Czarniecki from California, Eshan Weerasinghe, if I remember the surname correctly, from Los Angeles, California. Wishing you some awesome and great football this weekend, and we will I will for sure see you and hear you on Sunday for the review of everything that's happened at the FA Cup. But until then, thank you, Eshan, for partnering up with me today.
Adios.
Yeah, and let's throw a little polish in there. Do usłyszenia.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.